On Sunday, me and my boss were going to go hike up Mount Helena, which is on the edge of town, but it was a little bit rainy and a little bit possibly questionable weather for a hike. In any case, he wanted to instead go drive up into the hills by the little town of York on the north side of the valley. So that's what we did. We drove up into the hills, and he showed me this spot that he has gone up to see in the past. It's a service road that winds its way up to the top of some of these higher hills, and then communication towers are up there. So I believe the roads are primarily used for getting up to the fire watch towers and communication towers. And then of course there's some people who kind of have livestock and farming there, and there's also logging activity that happens in the woods around town. In any case, it was interesting kind of a afternoon, because me and my boss always drove together. Like, we'd ride all over the state of Montana for the last few years. And so I guess in a way there was a finality to this particular visit up the mountain, because the reality is it's the last time that we will be hanging out together. Probably last time we'll be going on a little road trip somewhere, and last time to just have that road time to talk about whatever comes to mind. And he talked about kind of all the things going on in his life, and we didn't talk too much about anything work related, probably because, it's not really my business anymore what's going on in our business and what used to be my business. But he's also in a place in his life where he is feeling like he wants to move on and do other things. So we spent a lot of time talking about that, just talking about what maybe he would like to do in his life. Maybe he would like to move to a new area. Maybe he would like to uproot his family and transfer to another part of the country himself. And I guess what stands out to me is that it's kind of crazy when you realize that you have nothing in your life. In many ways, like I have nothing in my life. And then I look at somebody like him who materially has pretty much everything you could look for or ask for. And yet he doesn't feel satisfied with his life. He feels trapped. He feels miserable. He feels kind of afraid. He feels like he's out of time. He feels like he's spent his whole life looking for a place to call home and never really found it. And what do you tell somebody who's in a position where they're living in a multi-million-dollar home, and they've got a family, they've got kids, they've got their parents alive and well, they've got their faith, they've got a successful career and potentially more years of successful career ahead of them, and yet they're not really happy. And I was talking to him on our way back. I said, the best thing in life is just to get up in the morning on a crisp fall day with a cup of coffee and your family or somebody who you love spending time with, and just having the whole day ahead of you without any objectives, without any things you're trying to control without any agenda or even any purpose, just to enjoy that open-ended experience of going on an adventure. And he said, I haven't had a day like that in a long time. Maybe not ever. And I think that's the crux of it. I think about my own life and I consider all the different things that could happen in my life over the next few weeks, months, and years. I think about the time I've had to be able to spend time by myself, the opportunity I've had to reflect on life, even having the ability to sit down and make a video like this and just share my thoughts with other people. All of these things, which are kind of the aimless wanderings of life, getting lost in the environment of some game world, or getting lost in the environment of some scenic vista in the wilderness, is really the same experience if you think about it. It's that vibe of just pouring a cup of coffee and going for an adventure. And sometimes I'm walking on the treadmill at home while I play Elder Scrolls Online, or this week I've been playing a little bit of No Man's Sky. Or maybe it's pouring my cup of coffee and going for a walk around the neighborhood, or going for a hike up the hill on the side of town or something like that, And it's just kind of crazy how easy it is to lose sight of the peace you can have in life from aimlessness and from just open-ended adventure. I think that was something that I first discovered playing computer games all the way back when I was a child, and that's why they stuck with me. It's why I wound up coming back to them later in my life, because having a sense of wonder, of curiosity, of imagination, of adventure, and of looking at life about the journey and not the destination, that is what life really is all about. And there is no money, there is no career that can make it truly better than just having nothing and having an open page every day to not know what's going to happen and be open to whatever comes your way. Because the best adventures are not pre-scripted. The best adventures are when you just walk outside your door and enjoy the wonder and the beauty of life in all of its forms. I think that's something that I'm going to want to safeguard as I move forward, as I move away, as I go to a new place, as I think about different jobs that I might do, as I think about other relationships with other people and different things that all can be really wonderful things, but they can also start to add more clutter into your life. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who have a sense of wonder, to not allow the chains that hold other people down to become weights that keep you from enjoying the beauty of life. I think with work, it's really important too to set clear boundaries, and that does not mean that you shouldn't have a job that's challenging. Does not mean that you shouldn't have a job that requires you to give it your thought and energy and effort. And it doesn't mean you can't take things seriously. But if your whole life devolves into something serious, to where suddenly you're so busy managing things, managing your home, managing your family, managing your career and your finances that you don't have time to stop and smell the roses. You don't have time to play a game that you like. You don't have time to just go explore a new place just for the sake of it. You don't have time just to spend time with somebody for no reason without any agenda. Then you're missing it. And that's not what you should be doing. So I think it's important to really focus on setting those boundaries in terms of career, in terms of personal life, in terms of relationships, to look for ways to grow all of those things, but also to remember that solitude also is an important part of being able to have a peaceful and meditative life. So now I'm down to about a week, I would say. A week left before it's time to kind of finish the final bit of packing stuff up and get the U-Haul and start making my way south. And since I still haven't gone back up Mount Helena on the edge of town, I'll probably take some time this week to go on a little hike up there just by myself, and go on a few more walks around town to capture the scenery and make my final cut of scenes from Helena, Montana, or the memory book. As for friends and final goodbyes, I found that it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of people I really need to say goodbye to. I've said goodbye to a few and hung out with a few, but increasingly, as each day passes, I become more aware and acknowledge to myself more that part of this journey means being alone. And there really aren't people that are going to be there for me, that are going to be following up and checking in. Maybe there's going to be a few people who have some idle curiosity. Maybe there will be a few connections that manage to survive in one form or another. But as I think about leaving and starting things over again, the biggest thing that I'm really aware of is that it is starting over. It is going into a new place and acknowledging that I don't have really anybody or anything, and then starting with a clean slate. And I think that's exciting, but it also is important to make sure that the kind of connections that I do make wind up being good ones.